What can I get you?
I don't have any money. But I play.
Okay. Don't you need to plug that thing in?
Yeah. You're English.
You're not.
How did you get out here?
Magic. Or maybe I went to an airport and caught a plane. You?
Magic.
I believe you. You've been traveling?
Yeah. From time to time.
Is it a sad song?
Nothing's sad till it's over. Then everything is.
What's it called?
I think that it's called Clara.
Tell me about her.
Well, I think that may have been called Clara, but this is called Discussing Who. And we are back for the 4th episode and fresh off of the magic plane from who knows where. We welcome back from last scene on the very first episode, but we're back for number 4, Mr. Lee Shackleford. Hey, Lee. Did we lose Lee?
Oh, sorry, no, I just had my mic muted because because I'm a professional and I don't know how these things work.
We thought you had been where you were the last 2 episodes, lost
Exactly.
in the time stream. Welcome
In
back.
Time and space. Thank you. No, I'm glad to be back.
Well, we're glad to have you back as always. So tell me what's going on with you. What have you been up to?
Well, I've just finished producing my annual festival of 10-minute plays, so that's where my head has been at. And, it's 7 short plays, so it's just doing 7 plays all at the same time. That's all.
Gotcha.
And we just did it at my alma mater where I teach at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. And that's the 13th of these festivals. So I've been doing this for a long time now. But I'm done.
So I guess I wrongly accused you of being on the Starship Enterprise or hanging out with the Cultdom Collective. So you proved me wrong. So there you go. But I would.
Yeah, I want to say I was doing something in the real world, but in the theater, you can't always tell. So. Yeah.
There you go. Well, we're glad to have you back, and I want to extend another hello to the person that was with me on episode 2 and 3, Mr. Clarence Brown. Clarence.
Hey guys, glad to be back for another round.
We're glad to have you back. It's nice to have all 3 of us here. And so tell us what have you been up to?
I've been caught up somewhere between too many good movies to go see, or supposedly good. I've heard contrary opinions, and too much good television as well. There's just a bunch of shows, including Netflix shows like Daredevil, that is just not enough time to watch.
Absolutely. I've gotten through 2 episodes of Daredevil. Still haven't watched all of Jessica Jones, and not because I don't want to. It's like what you said, haven't had time. One thing Clarence has been working on is he has finished programming, designing, doing all the back end work and some of the front end work on the Discussing Who website, which you can find at www.discussingwho.com. So please check it out, and all credit there goes to Clarence because he's the one that created that. So good job.
Yeah.
It looks really great.
Oh, thank you. That awesome sauce, man. Not a problem. So Kyle, what have you been up to these past few weeks?
Well, let's see. The last couple of weeks, well, how do I want to answer that? Last couple of few weeks, I moved, and the thing that you won't be hearing, or you won't hear me go silent, hopefully, is I do not have a train going by my window 2 or 3 times every hour, it seemed like. So that right there is something that I'm absolutely 100% happy about. So
It's worth all the trouble of moving.
absolutely, and my commute has gone from 45 minutes down to about 10 or 11 minutes. So I've gotten basically an hour to an hour and a half, give and take, of my day back. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, yes. So I guess everyone has already figured out what we're discussing, who we're discussing on this particular episode. But to make it official, we are discussing the finale of the 2015 Doctor Who series, and that would have encompassed a little bit of the Face the Raven, but mostly what we're going to be talking about is Hell Bent, which was the last episode, Heaven Sent, which is the one who, or that, let's get correct there, that preceded Hell Bent. So, guys, Clarence, I'll let you go first, then Lee, jump in. What did you think? Did you like it? Didn't like it? So what were your initial thoughts?
Well, the last 2 episodes, certainly the best one, probably of the last 2 years to me, was Heaven Sent. That episode alone was everything I like about Doctor Who wrapped up into a nice tight package. You know, over the past 2 years, we've seen a little bit of everything, and this one gives just the right amount of mystery, him trying to figure things out, and then ultimately a good conclusion. One of the things this episode reminds me of a lot is like if you go on YouTube, and there's a lot of videos out now, but search like the transporter principle. You know, people say, do you actually die when you get transported?
The suicide machine, yeah.
Yeah, suicide machine. If there's plenty of videos on YouTube, but if you go search that kind of gives kind of the impression episode. And then, talking about us going back and reviewing it, just looking at the opening scene, it gives everything away right there. But of course, your first time watching it, you don't know what's going on. So,
right.
I mean, just a wonderful episode. It encompasses everything I like about the Doctor.
All right. Well, Lee, what did you think?
Wow. Clarence is reading my script page. Those are all the things I was going to say. Yeah, it is. But yeah, I'm not sure I could put that any better. That it is. It's like this is everything that we love about Doctor Who, and there it all was in one episode. And for me specifically, that's about an ethos and a problem to solve. That he not only has to solve the problem, but we know he's going to do what's right in the long run. Yes. And I wanted to see how he was going to do it this time. There were enough hints that had been dropped earlier on that maybe he doesn't care about the ethics that he's put forward in the past. Maybe this is a different guy now. And we kind of got that teased when we were on Skaro at the beginning of the season. And I don't know, I was just very glad that he resolved things the way that he did.
Yes.
Quibble about Clara though, because we've talked about this on all the other podcasts that we do about whether or not when we kill off a character in this series and then we allow them a cheat, if it doesn't diminish the power of their death. And so I love Clara, but it bugged me. It's since she's still out there, it's going to continue to bug me that she's still out there. I know she doesn't have a pulse, but damn it, I appreciated the courage of her sacrifice. But Face the Raven. So,
But wibbly
Well,
wobbly, let me jump in real quick. Wibbly
please.
wobbly, timey wimey going on here, but technically, it doesn't diminish. You could argue because it still happened. She's just frozen per se.
That's
yeah.
true. And we don't know what's going to come of that. But I don't know. As an audience member, I still feel like it trivializes the loss of a character if we then get to see them again. I don't know.
But
But I mean, also more than any other character, I feel, at least in the new series, she takes on the persona of the Doctor, that bravado, that cockiness. She thinks she can defeat anything, and that is kind of the tale of her character that she lives on, kind of the same way the Doctor does.
That's true.
The thing that got her killed was her complete and utter feeling that nothing can stop them. And she's taken that same idea and spirit from the Doctor and instilled it in herself, and it was ultimately her downfall.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That in that moment of taking the tattoo, that's what he would have done. She was just doing what the Doctor does all the time. You know.
right, but she may have been doing what he does all the time, but ultimately she was not thinking the way he does. She still had the human thinking because he would have had the force, in my opinion, I think he would have had the foresight to realize, this may not work out exactly. And he also knows that, well, if it doesn't work out exactly, I at least save somebody and time to regenerate. If worse comes to worse, I'll just
Right.
regenerate.
She doesn't have that.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
you're right. She knew she was going to die. So what's happened to her since doesn't alter that.
and talking with both of you have gone on record as being big fans of Clara. I mean, that's without a doubt. So we've kind of got an idea of what you think about her exit. And Lee, I'm going to let you take this one first because you're the writer of the group. So I'm going to ask you the $1,000,000 question. If you could have written her exit, what would you have done?
Yeah, I really would have. What I wanted to see was the Doctor propelled into new action by the loss of Clara, which is what happened. But I feel like it's blunted by the fact that then he sort of gets her back. Well, he doesn't get her back, does he?
I really
Who knows
don't.
at this point?
Right.
Because the twist is he doesn't remember.
Right. And Clarence, if you could have created an exit for her, what would the exit have been that you created?
I don't know. I mean, I'll say that I particularly loved the way she went out. It had the right amount of emotion and everything with her exit. Again, her making the sacrifice for somebody else, which is what the Doctor does. So I mean, I think. I think as much as she loved the Doctor, I couldn't just see her going off and doing something else. Going back to being a teacher, she never would have did that. Just looking at her character and the spirit of her character, she never would have did that. So, I mean, ultimately, dying was her only way to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If as I was watching, I'm thinking back as I'm trying to talk, as I was watching the entirety of season 9, coming from the perspective of looking at it, planning, okay, I've got to talk about this on Podshot, but then also watching it and trying to figure out what's going on. We know that she's leaving. We, being the fans, know that Jenna Coleman is leaving, and at some point, Clara has to leave if the actress is leaving. So I went into it, even from the very first episode, thinking, okay, what's going on? Is she gone? Is she not gone? When is she leaving? Adding on top of that, for all intents and purposes, we've seen her die twice.
Yeah.
So the whole Face the Raven thing to me was very, yes, it was selfish, yes, it was noble, but it was empty for me.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't really feel it. I just was like, okay, Clara's died again. Okay, well, let's keep going. I mean, and nothing negative to the way she acted it. The only negative thing I would say is they cut out a scene where, for whatever reason, that makes it look like, oh well, we just left her laying in the, we left her laying dead in the streets, and no big deal. Now I understand why they left her, laying in the street so that they could come back and get her. But
Yeah.
but watching it, I'm looking at it from the perspective of she's just laying there. You just went back in. How cold, you know?
Well, let me ask you this: Do you guys what do you think of the use of Maisie Williams' character in the show? I mean, the end result of her being on the show has been us winding up with two Doctor-like characters out there gallivanting in a spaceship, in a time ship. So, what purpose did she actually serve to being on the show? I don't.
A surprise.
Yeah.
I mean,
There was so much excitement, I think, or at least an attempt at creating excitement in the press leading up to the first episode with her. Maisie Williams is going to be on Doctor Who, and since I don't watch Game of Thrones, I said, and I haven't been impressed with her as an actor. I'm not intrigued by the character. So every time she keeps showing up, I've been pretty much saying, meh.
Well.
So.
yeah, from my take to answer that, to answer that question, my take from the character of me, a shielder or whatever, in the first two episodes, I could have taken her or and I don't think it played well to her acting skills coming from watching Game of Thrones and her being one of the few characters that I like a lot of characters on there, but she's one of my favorites. And seeing how, they said, okay, well, she's a Viking at the beginning. Well, that made it look to me like, okay, you're just trying to put her into similar costumes and whatever for Game of Thrones.
I agree.
This is kind of empty. But then when she unexpectedly shows back up in 3 more episodes, it's like, okay, you were trying to pull the wool over our eyes a little bit. And then at the end, when he says, the something me, you finally lived up to your title or whatever. I thought that was brilliant. So I liked her at the end. I didn't think they showed off what she could do really at the beginning, but I think they made up for it in my take at the end.
Yeah, one last question, then we can discuss Hellbent a little bit more. As far as the canon of characters being killed off in Doctor Who, I haven't known many, if any, so far, other than Clara. Can you guys elaborate on that? Is this a thing that has happened before in the past frequently, or is it just
very? I'll take half the question, and I'll let Lee fill in the other half. It has only happened once before that a companion has been killed, and Lee, that was
Sarah Kingdom. There's been several characters, companions close to the Doctor, who have died in the course of the story. But yeah, most notably Adric.
Yeah.
Spoiler for people who
spoilers.
Yeah. But yeah, we had to watch Sarah Kingdom die earlier in the classic series, and she was only in one episode.
Yeah.
But we the thing is, there's no out for them. They don't come back. Linda with a Y is dead. She's dead. Other people that we've grown close to, and then we've watched them die. And then sometimes some people get to cheat. And to me, the covenant of the show is some people get to cheat, and he's the star of the show. It doesn't work for anybody else, So when Oswald gets it, then that's it. I'm sorry. And
And
You can't keep killing Clara over and over again. I mean,
Yeah.
with Rory, that was the joke. I understand that. You know, Rory was also an exception.
And
The boy who died.
I'll add a little bit on top of that. Number one, I had completely forgotten about Sarah Kingdom. Totally forgotten about her. Of course, Adric was who I was referring to.
Adric is a biggie.
And the other part is one of the things I was thinking about before we got started tonight. Several times in Moffat's writing, he has written that the Doctor does not like endings. But as a writer, or as a director, or showrunner, or whatever, Moffat really liked endings. Because think about how many tearful goodbyes or redos of a goodbye, or the heartfelt endings that he's created. And not saying that there have not been others in the past, which there have been, but for someone who likes to put his character to saying, I don't, the Doctor doesn't like endings, or people talking about that, as a writer, he really likes endings.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk a little bit about something else from Hell Bent, and then I'm going to backtrack, and then we'll talk a little bit about Heaven Sent. Clarence, a question for you. You've made reference that you started watching with the 2005 series. For you, this is not the first time you've seen Gallifrey, but it is the first time you've seen the Doctor on Gallifrey. What did you think?
Seems like whenever Gallifrey comes to the picture, the main topic is how much the Doctor is defiant, or how much I'm not going to say they hate him, but it seems like he's always doing something wrong. And to me, this episode was no different. Of course, we find out the result of him being cast away on Heaven Sent. Is that the usual thing that comes up. He's messing up stuff. He's outside the bounds of a Time Lord. So I didn't really like that episode that much. That's an honest opinion. I much more enjoyed Heaven Sent than Hellbent. I mean, it was kind of cool. They talk about he may have been in the catacombs as a child and things like that. It just was not one of my favorite episodes. And again, the whole thing of bringing Clara back, again, defying the rules is what the Doctor is there for, I guess. So, I mean, not one of my favorites. It was kind of cool to see him on Gallifrey, but, other than that, I really could give a take with this episode.
All right, Lee, what did you think?
It's actually a question I was about to raise for both of you. Is that if there's a retcon in this episode, it's about the reason why the Doctor left Gallifrey in the first place. And as a fan from the classic series, I got trouble with that, because we've been told time and time again, if you'll pardon the expression, I guess we first started hearing it from the second Doctor, that he had to get out of there because the culture of Gallifrey is decadent. It's self-important. It's these pompous jerks, and he's rebelling. He wanted to get away from them. Well, as of this episode, that's no longer the story, and that bothers me.
Well, see, I think with Moffat, he wrote in the ultimate trap door for himself to get out of anything that has gone before by saying the Doctor lies, rule number one. And so, I was thinking of that when you said, well, back to the second Doctor, when he said, that they were pompous and they were whatever and etc. Well, yes, the Doctor lied. So obviously that's not true, because it's this, because back then the Doctor lied. So, I just think that was too easy. And no, I did not like how they tried to re-explain how they got, why he left in the first place. That I didn't think added anything, and I didn't think it was very clear, probably for a reason. And another thing, talking about when he left Gallifrey, I didn't like how in the 50th, when they had Clara supposedly saying, don't choose that one, choose this one, when it was only, X number of episodes before in The Doctor's Wife, where the TARDIS basically says, you didn't steal me, I chose you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that explanation much better, that the TARDIS
Right, absolutely.
really the instigator of that, And you never took me where I wanted to go. No, but I always took you where you needed to go.
Right. And that to me made so much more sense than a version of Clara saying, choose this one.
Well, it's the difference between all of the Doctor's adventures being because he was courageous and all of them happening because he was afraid.
Right.
And I like the courageous explanation better. I like my heroes like that.
What do you guys think about from time to time when we see the Doctor actually, for instance, when he was in his house and the soldiers came to get him, whatever? We see this probably once a season, maybe a little bit more, where he just like is outright defiant. I'm the man. Can't nobody mess with me. Those type of scenes we have from time to time. I don't particularly like those. It just makes him kind of feel like a big a-hole, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and I felt like we had too many of those in the 11th Doctor's time. So, I got tired of it. So that's very interesting. I've often wondered if I'm just really in the minority about that. So,
no,
at least Clarence.
No, I think that's why, it's going to sound like what I'm about to say is very anti-Moffat, but it was time for him to move on. And, I mean that in the best way, because I go back and I look at the episodes that I have memorized parts of, or, go back and I'll listen to and quote and go back and forth and whatever. And a lot of that is things that Moffat has written. So, I'm saying it's time that he moved on, but yet I quote him the most. I very rarely, even though I absolutely love the 10th Doctor with David Tennant, I don't find myself quoting things that David Tennant said. I find myself quoting things that Matt Smith said. So, but I just think it's time, for a change. And maybe that also is a good segue into changing from Hell Bent, and let's talk a little bit about Heaven Sent. So what do you guys think?
Right. Even though it was before it in the continuity, but
yeah, exactly.
Wibbly wobbly.
So going back before the episode that we were just talking about, Lee, I want to ask you a question that's been on my mind for a little while, and that is, again, I'm going to refer to you as the writer of the group, and I want to know what you thought about Heaven Sent being a basically, with the exception of the bad guy and a little brief semi-Clara appearance. What did you think about Heaven Sent from the writer perspective? Not the fan, but the technical writing of how it was laid out and delivered.
I deeply, deeply admire the writing of this episode. My wife and I just watched it sitting on the edges of our seats, and just a little while ago, I left a meeting with a young playwright who I'm encouraging to write a monologue piece because not because it's easy, but because it's hard. It's really hard to hold the audience's attention with one person on camera or on stage going through. I mean, it becomes all about the progression of the story, about their problem solving, about them trying to get to the end of whatever it is they're trying to do. And to give the Doctor a puzzle box like that, I just think it's brilliant. And it might have been sufficient for the climax to be for us to realize how he's going to get out, or how he's going to, whatever the solution is going to be. But the heartbreak of realizing what he's going to have to do in order to get out, it's just, I'm one of those people saying I can't wait to see the back of Stephen Moffat as the showrunner, and then every now and then he does something like this, and I just say, "Wow, okay, well, maybe I'm too hard on him," because my golly, what a script.
Yeah, I mean, and that along with if you look at the time that passes as he tries to free himself, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask this because I did not get until they said it in the next episode, and I may have missed the absolute obvious here. I did not get that he could have gotten out at any point. Did you guys get that, or is that something I just like didn't see the obvious?
I did not get that. Can you explain?
Lee, did you get it?
No, that wasn't my impression.
There is a line when he is in the high. This is after he's had the confrontation out in the desert with Rassilon, and he goes back to the chamber of the High Council. The Sisterhood of Karn is there, and he's having the conversation. They're trying to they're quizzing him basically about the hybrid, and someone basically says, and I think it is the head sister. Someone says you could have gotten out at any point. All you would have, and it may have been Rassilon that said it, but somebody said you could have gotten out at any point. All you had to do was tell us what you knew. Tell us about the hybrid. So they acknowledge that.
That is true. That's true.
I guess, and I wasn't conscious of that, but I think the way I made sense in my own mind was that they were manipulating what was going on inside the disc, and that they could have changed the rules.
Correct. And it also added for me a little bit more to the once I figured that out. It was like, okay, you stayed in there for X number of million years so that you could get to wherever they were, and try to do what you did to potentially unsuccessfully, maybe successfully save Clara.
Mm-hmm.
And hence becomes the hybrid because of that.
Yeah.
Is there any reasoning as to why the wall was not reset as well with everything else? I didn't really get that out of the episode.
I still love that episode poetically, but yeah, it was inside the castle, and we established that everything gets reset in there, which means that all of the clues and the work that he's doing should have been.
And the skulls, for that matter, there should not.
Yeah,
there should
be exactly the same every day, but we see time progressing in there. We know that it does. So, yeah, I don't know.
So
it's still a great episode.
So what did you think of talking about it from this, how it was written, but what did you think about the story itself? I know there's not much in the sense of there wasn't that much going on, even though there was a lot of stuff going on. When did you realize that the skulls were his?
Wow, not until structurally Act 4. I mean, it was very late in the episode where I said, "Oh my God, those are all him." Yeah.
Clarence, what did you think? When did you realize that, or did you realize it at the point everybody else did?
Yeah, pretty much to the point everybody else did. I was pretty much dumbfounded to we realize it's him that has the power of the device to bring a new doctor back, or the same doctor, however you look at it. so yeah, just overall to me the writing was great. With the exception of the few things we talked about, I was just those are the type of episodes that keep me engrossed, and for one man to command your attention for that long, and if you think about it, pretty much a very limited amount of set pieces, it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally with what you said. My next question, I guess, would be to you guys. We knew that there was something behind the wall, behind the crystal that he was trying to break through. We suspected, or maybe not suspected, but let me just get to my question, which is, when did you realize it's the Time Lords? Did you realize it in story? Did you read a spoiler? Read something online? When and how did you find out that's who's on the other side?
I probably didn't realize until the episode was just about over. You know, I was kind of so engrossed in the whole mechanics of the story that I really wasn't focused on who put them there. You know.
Yeah, no, it had me until the confession dial closed up, and if I'm remembering this right, then we pan around and we see the shattered dome of the principal city of Gallifrey, and I said, "Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
okay."
And speaking of that, I'm going to play that real quick. And it was not actually a shattered dome, believe it or not. It was actually a restored Gallifrey. So I'm going to play that real
Interesting.
quick.
Remembering it the old way.
Go to the city. Find somebody important. Tell them I'm back. Tell them I know what they did. And I'm on my way. And if they ask you who I am, tell them I came the long way round. You can probably still hear me. So just between ourselves, you got the prophecy wrong. The hybrid is not half Dalek. Nothing is half Dalek. The Daleks would never allow that. The hybrid, destined to conquer Gallifrey and stand in its ruins. Is me.
Wow.
So, I want to talk before we finish up. I want to talk real briefly. What did you guys think about the whole concept of the hybrid?
Well, to me, it kind of signifies a lot of things that happen, as far as war or trying to stop a certain thing is concerned. We've seen these stories in times past of when the effort to try to stop something, you're creating the very thing you try to stop, and that's what we see here, which is really weird and really great at the same time. I mean, I kind of love the concept of how they pulled that out.
Okay. Lee, what did you think?
I think I didn't understand the question.
And I think the question in itself is, it left, we were talking about the hybrid, and I think you answered the question without even realizing you answered the question, in that some of it to me didn't make sense, because in the first two episodes with Davros, it seems like it's going in a completely different direction. And then for a brief second, I'm thinking, oh no, tell me they're not going to go back to addressing I'm half human, that from the TV movie.
And that was certainly being teased for our benefit, for those of us who remember that and remember being horrified by the idea that, now he's Mr. Spock.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I know that was being done, just to tease us. But I'm so glad that was not where that was going. But I'm no less, no more satisfied by it being Ishilda, or I don't know. It's really hard to retcon something that's been going on for 50 years. I mean, if this was really a concern, then we would have heard about it before, So, I don't know.
Certainly.
Yeah, and
we're all comics fans. We know how hard it is to go back and say, all that stuff. That's not how
that's not happening. This is not DC Comics.
That's right. You have to destroy the entire universe to get away with it.
Yeah. Well, actually, I know they have. They have. We've had the Big Bang and Big Bang 2.
Doctors. Yeah.
What was that? Pandorica Opens?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, considering that this is a show called Discussing Who, and I think all of us are coffee drinkers. Lee, you drink coffee, don't you?
Oh yeah.
All right, so we're going to
I don't know
call
where you're going with this.
instead of having some other form of rating. Let's say that we're going to have on this show when we give something a rating. Let's say that we're going to have 0 to 5 cups of coffee. So if you were to rate these two episodes as a whole, 0 to 5 cups of coffee, with 0 being horrible and 5 being fantastic, what would you give it?
You're talking about both episodes together?
Both episodes together. or separate, whichever one you want to do. It's up to you.
That's a great 2-hour movie.
All right. Either one of you, go for it.
Go for it, Lee.
I'm going to call this I give it to four lattes, I think, because it's there's some milk in there.
Okay. All right. Fair. That's fair. All right. Clarence?
I would say 3, because I mean, Heaven Sent was just so fantastic to me, but Hellbent just really didn't. It was just a mom episode to me.
Okay.
So it brings it down.
All right.
What about yourself?
All right, so I'm going to reverse. I actually preferred Hell Bent over Heaven Sent. I think
Wow.
I think in the end it and I think I did not finish my thought from earlier, which is something I have a habit of not doing. But anyway, I liked the Clara ending, the way they did it. I liked how at the very end he goes to the chalkboard and it's the run you clever boy and be a doctor. And I thought that was a great sentimental ending. So with that, for the two of them together, I'm going to give it actually 4 cups of coffee and a shot of espresso at the end. So that's mine. So I think
one quick question to you guys. Do you think we'll see Clara again?
Lee, what do you think? And then I'll give you my opinion.
I'm going to say no, because if we do, I'm going to throw something at the
I'm going to say yes. Well, I'm going to say a tentative yes. And in the universe where Moffat was still writing, when the time comes that Capaldi will leave, then the answer would be we would have absolutely seen her. The fact that he will perhaps not be writing, depending on whether or not Capaldi stays, past which he's been asked to do. We don't know if he's going to do that yet. But if he stays and then someone else writes his exit, maybe not. But if Moffat writes it, I think we'll have something eerily similar, or reference to Clara, maybe not on camera, but we'll see something Clara-ish when when he actually leaves the role and regenerates. So that's my answer.
That sounds great. I agree with that.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, I think we have pretty much summed up these 2 episodes, and I just want to remind everyone before I hand it back over to you guys, you can follow us on Twitter at discussingwho.com. at discussingwho. We're on our website at www.discussingwho.com. Also, we're on Facebook at facebook.com/discussingwho. So pretty easy to find. It's Discussing Who. And in our upcoming episode, we'll be talking a little bit more about Wonder Woman, DC Comics, Batman and Superman. Some of us may be me and Lee, some of it may be me and Clarence, some of it may be all 3 of us. So we invite you back. And gentlemen, do you have anything you want to share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, I do. I just I looked at the Discussing Who website when it was still in its infantile stage, and I knew I needed to come back and look, but I hadn't actually looked until right now. Clarence, this is beautiful.
Yeah, he did.
Thank you.
He did a very good job. It does look very good. So,
everybody go look at this, discussingwho.com, and it's got all the links to subscribe. It's got our blog going on it. It's a little bit about each of us. It's really, really nice.
Yeah, and more bios, more information. All three of us will be writing on it, so please check it out and follow us on iTunes. We appreciate your support. We know we're new. We know we're new to the game, and anybody that's listening, we're glad you're listening, and tell others about us. We very much appreciate it. And with that, I do believe, gentlemen, our discussion has come to a close. Thank you, everybody.